December 5, 1945. 5 U.S. Navy bombers fly directly into a clear sky over the Atlantic Ocean and vanish without a single trace. Hours later, a rescue plane sent to find them disappears too. No debris, no bodies, no wreckage ever found. Welcome to the Bermuda Triangle. It's a demonic patch of ocean spanning over 500,000 square miles that has swallowed more than 1,000 ships, dozens of aircraft, and thousands of human lives. Science blames freak waves and magnetic anomalies, but hidden military records reveal a far more terrifying truth. Today on Global 19, we sail straight into the dead zone to uncover the forbidden secrets. Is it a natural anomaly, a gateway to a lost ancient energy source, or a secret the world's superpowers are desperately trying to hide? Just sit with those words for a second. Even the ocean looks strange. That was the actual terrifying final transmission from the pilot of that doomed Flight 19 mission. We have to remember, these weren't rookies. These were highly trained, veteran military aviators flying in standard conditions. So for an experienced pilot to radio in that the water itself looked fundamentally wrong right before absolute silence, it literally sends chills down your spine. This wasn't just some routine mechanical failure. Something deeply abnormal was happening out there, completely altering the very environment they were flying over. And we're not talking about some small, localized little hazard either. 500,000. That is 500,000 square miles of unpredictable, totally unforgiving ocean. To put that massive number into perspective, we're looking at a huge expanse of water stretching roughly between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. This isn't just a tiny pinpoint on a map. It is a massive, sweeping geographic territory where the normal, everyday rules of navigation and physics just seem to violently break down. When you look at the historical toll, the sheer volume is just staggering. I mean, this single patch of ocean has swallowed more than 1,000 ships, completely erased dozens of aircraft, and tragically claimed thousands of human lives over the decades. But you know what truly defies logic? It's the absolute lack of debris. Normally, when massive cargo ships sink or planes crash into the ocean, you'll find an oil slick, maybe floating wreckage or life jackets. But here? Nothing. Zero. Even that massive PBM Mariner flying boat that was sent out to rescue the Flight 19 crew, it just completely ceased to exist. Section 1. The Flight 19 Anomaly, December 1945. Let's actually walk step by step through the exact sequence of events that day. So first, 5 U.S. Navy Avenger bombers launch into totally clear Atlantic skies. The weather is literally perfect. But then, inexplicably, multiple compasses across the different planes start spinning wildly out of control, which points to a massive magnetic anomaly. Then, communications just completely break down and go dead, leaving these pilots entirely blind and deaf to the outside world. And finally, the dispatch rescue plane vanishes as well. It is a terrifying, cascading failure of navigation, communication, and ultimately existence. Section 2. Science versus the deep. Explaining the unexplainable. Okay, so mainstream science usually points to freak, massive ocean waves to explain this. They also point to immense methane gas explosions erupting from the seabed. The theory here is actually pretty fascinating. These massive gas bubbles rapidly decrease the water's density, which causes heavy ships to basically lose buoyancy and sink instantly, like a rock. But on the other hand, hidden military records and pilot testimonies counter this with horrifying reports of complete, sudden electronic death. Now, methane gas might sink a ship, sure, but it absolutely doesn't explain why military-grade aviation electronics and radios up in the sky would completely die, completely defying our standard scientific models. Section 3. The Bimini Road Pyramids, Echoes of an Ancient Power. Well, this brings us to some of the wilder paranormal lore surrounding something called the Bimini Road. According to this theory, which, by the way, we're just presenting totally neutrally here, there are alleged underwater crystal pyramids lying dormant right at the bottom of the triangle. These structures are theorized by certain researchers to be the remnants of a highly advanced lost civilization. You'll often hear it linked in these circles to the myth of Atlantis. So the absolutely crucial point here is how this theory actually attempts to explain the vanishings. The claim is that these sunken ancient structures aren't just dead stone. They are allegedly capable of emitting massive, violent electromagnetic bursts right up from the ocean floor. Proponents of this theory argue that when an aircraft or ship passes directly over one of these focused energy bursts, it triggers an instantaneous, total system failure.
It essentially yanks the vehicle right out of the sky or pulls it down into the dark waters below. Section 4. Electronic fog and time warps. The space-time distortion. But what about the people who didn't vanish, the ones who lived to tell the tale? The single most recurring anomaly reported by survivors is this deeply unsettling concept known as electronic fog. Imagine you're flying on a perfectly clear day, and suddenly you are engulfed in this bizarre, swirling cloud that almost seems to latch onto the aircraft. Pilots report that inside this fog, it's not just that they can't see, it's a total loss of navigational instruments, paired with a highly documented, incredibly strange, altered perception of time. Based on survivor testimonies, a pretty terrifying timeline emerges. At 0 minutes, the flight enters the strange, engulfing fog. By 15 minutes in, the experience complete electronic failure and heavy radio distortion. Sound familiar? But here is the physically impossible part. At 30 minutes, the flight suddenly emerges from the fog directly over their destination. They have completely bypassed physical speed limits, effectively losing hours of expected travel time in just a matter of minutes. It strongly hints at massive space-time distortions, which leads to theories that the Bermuda Triangle might actually contain active, almost alien-like time warp portals. Now, you might be wondering, why does this matter to us right now? Well, this isn't just some eerie campfire story from 1945. 70% of our planet is covered in ocean. And this specific 500,000 square mile dead zone, commercial flights, cruise ships, and cargo vessels pass through it every single day. We are continuously interacting with this geographical hazard. So understanding what truly causes these anomalies, whether it's totally natural or something else entirely, is a matter of absolute safety and modern necessity. Which really leaves us staring out into those dark waters with one haunting question. Based on the hard data, the total lack of missing debris, and those incredible survivor testimonies, what are we really dealing with here? Is the Bermuda Triangle merely a violent, wildly misunderstood natural anomaly? Is it actually a gateway to a lost ancient energy source? Or is it a deeply guarded secret that the world's superpowers are desperately trying to hide? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer for Global 19. Keep questioning everything, and I will catch you next time.